Ruby. You're on mute, Ruby. You're on mute.
Typical.
That's okay. I've done it this morning as well. Look, welcome back, everyone, and hope you are enjoying your morning with us. There's been plenty of learnings this morning and plenty more to come. Dylan Shimmon sends his sincere apologies. Unfortunately, there has been a blackout in the town that he lives within, and there is just absolutely no way for him to get online. So you've got me again. I'm stepping in. So I'm going to be in conversation with Ruby Bowden for the next 30 minutes. This session is something that I have been looking forward to for the last few months. It's going to be raw. It's very personal. And let's just dive in. Ruby, would you like to first introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are and your pronouns and share the position that you actually come from as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ruby Bowden. Some of you may know me as Ruby Ali. I go by both names. My pronouns are she, her, and they. The position that I come from in life is I come from a mixed heritage. So I don't really identify with one culture, which is where my story is probably stemmed from today in this talk.
Thank you, Ruby. So, I mean, we're going to be speaking about Ruby's personal experiences, Ruby's past battle with different forms of abuse throughout her life, forced marriage, domestic violence, and workplace discrimination has made her not only a voice of how to exist without permission, but also a role model as she continues to challenge that internal dialogue women from globally diverse groups inherit alongside their generational trauma. Ruby, let's start off with that first question. I would like you to hold this space to introduce yourself a little bit more fully. Share with us those parts of your story you'd care to illuminate. And honestly, please only do share what you feel you're comfortable with. And those chapters that are particularly pivotal or meaningful to you. Look, the floor is yours. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. So about my story, I think the best place to start is probably the middle of my story. So I came from a very abusive household. I came from different types of trauma that I wasn't able to identify until I went to therapy much later in life. So I wasn't aware I was going through the trauma until I took a step back and really assessed it. I ran away from home at 16 because I didn't relate to the culture or the identity that my mother and my stepdad were trying to force upon me. I struggled with finding out who I was. I struggled with making friends because I had such a diverse background that I didn't really fit in anywhere in society. So I ran away at home at 16. I ended up having to go through homelessness for about 3 months. I also suffer from endometriosis, which I will share later on. But I found myself sleeping in A&E quite a lot. I found that the nurses and doctors, because of the long waiting times, didn't really notice I was there. So that's how I'd get a bed at night. Until one of the nurses realized, this young girl is here every night. She's not really being seen by doctors. Let's see what support we can get her. So I got taken into a women's refuge. From that, I found it really hard to connect to other people. So I didn't have the same social skills as other peers my age because I wasn't allowed to leave the house. And because I came from such a strict upbringing, I didn't understand how to interact with people, how to interact with other peers a similar age. I didn't have the same interests as them because I grew up from, like I said, a different background household. I found myself in a position where I had to grow up really quickly. Wasn't sure how to do it because it's not something they teach at school. It's not something you're taught at home. Ended up signing on at the job center. I remember walking there almost every day to use the computers because I didn't have a phone at the time to find a job, anything that would take me. I had holes in my shoes. I used to put little plasters over the holes so the rain wouldn't get in. I laugh about it now. Eventually worked my way up. So worked my way up, but I still struggled with the cultural side. So I tried to make friends in the different cultures I came from. So I tried to make friends with Asian groups and found myself not adhering the way I looked, and I couldn't fit in with them. I tried making friends with different types of group, different diversities, and I just found that I just stuck out like a sore thumb, and I couldn't find my place in society, and it became very lonely. I found myself self-harming with suicidal thoughts, trying to commit suicide almost on a weekly basis because I couldn't find my place in society. I was so lonely. I didn't have family support. I had no friends. The work I was doing was ad hoc work when I could get it as and when. And I decided to go back home. I thought, right, I think it might be best for me to go back home and just adhere to what's being pushed upon me. So adhere to the way they wanted me to dress, the way they wanted me to speak, the hobbies they wanted me to have. So when I went back home, I had a choice. Either get married or be kicked out again. So I decided, right, the best thing for me to do is get married. So I was a teen at the time. I found myself married to someone who was 12 years older than me. We had absolutely nothing in common. I found myself in a different country. So after we got married, we ended up going to Pakistan. I found myself in a country that, again, I couldn't relate to the culture, the people, the norms, that the societal norms they had in Pakistan that didn't correlate to the way I had been brought up or what my internal belief system was. And I found myself in a very abusive relationship. It was very turbulent between us. There was a lot of physical abuse, sexual abuse. And I remember not having access to a phone or being able to have any outside influences, not being able to leave the house, not being able to work, just having to be the stay-at-home housewife. And I didn't know what to do with myself. So I decided to spin a story to get back to the UK. The story was that my endometriosis was playing up and I needed specialist care. And if we wanted children, we had to go to the UK to get that special care. So that's how I managed to get back into the UK. And then that abuse still continued in the UK. It got worse. I remember being on the phone to my mum, begging her to allow me to leave, and I was getting told every day, you'll dishonor the family, there'll be so much shame, like what will your peers think? And there was a lot of weight on my shoulders because I was the eldest daughter. I didn't know what to do. The pressure of having the honor of the family and living up to the expectations of being a wife and being a woman as well. So with my endometriosis, I have fertility problems. So not being able to get pregnant or being able to do the things that I was supposed to do as a woman were really playing on me. And this happened for about a year. This abuse cycle was happening for a year. It got to the point where I had to take a step back and I had to think, is this how I want to live the rest of my life? Because if I do, I have to fully commit. I have to fully commit to the culture. I have to fully commit to knowing my place as a woman, as my mother was telling me, as my husband was telling me, as my mother-in-law was telling me, or whether I wanted to walk away. And I woke up one day and decided to walk away, and I left in the pajamas I was in with no belongings, no money. I did not even have my passport or my purse. And my mother, my sisters never spoke to me again. And I was excluded from the family. And I found myself in the same position I was in when I was homeless, not having a support network, not having family, feeling very alone, lonely. The mutual friends that I made through my husband then abandoned me because I brought so much shame on his family, dishonor on my own family, etc. And I found myself in a cycle. I found myself looking to find a relationship with anyone, and getting into committed relationships with people who were violent because I thought that's how you express love. It's the way that my mum expressed love to me. It's the way my husband expressed love to me. So I thought that was normal. And I found myself in these cycles trying to just feel really close to just anyone, to feel as part of a belonging, a group. And whilst that was happening, I was also obviously trying to get into a workplace. So my personal life was playing a big part in my work life as well. And I was just going around in these cycles. It was very difficult. And that kind of brings me on to the endometriosis as well. So growing up, I always had endometriosis, and within my culture, there was so much shame around menstruation and women's problems, etc. We were in a household of 4, and I was always told to hide that side of myself, and it was something I couldn't hide because I had such violent periods. I had such violent episodes. It was so painful. I had to hide it with my husband, and it kind of played an impact in my workplace as well. I had managers that I was working with that told me, women who I thought would be very supportive of me and my condition, who told me I should just have a hysterectomy and be over with it. I had fellow women who told me that it can't be that bad, just take a painkiller and it'll be over with. I had female leaders who made me go into the workplace when I'd have a flare-up or an episode, and I would have bled through my workloads and having to sit there in the shame of knowing that I'm going through this and no one else could relate or wasn't getting that support. I've experienced so much throughout my life. It's been quite difficult. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Ruby. And I just want to say how brave you are today to share this story, because it is the very first time ever that you are opening up about your experiences in life as a woman of color, and how culture, identity, work, everything has crashed and clashed for you. You speak about culture and identity quite a bit, and the lack of identity, actually. The fact that you've excluded from your own culture, that the fact that you've been excluded from your own culture as you did not match the expectations, you were never the right skin color, right? Your interests were different. The way you spoke was different. How has this disconnect with belonging informed who you are today and what you stand for?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming from a mixed heritage, I was never the right skin color for my groups. I was never Black enough for the Black community. I was never brown enough for the Asian community. I was never white enough for the white community. So I found myself always on the edge, on the border of these groups, and just looking in, like peering in from the glass. And it was quite difficult. I was homeschooled for most of my childhood, so I didn't have the same social norms or connection that other peers my age would have. It gets quite emotional speaking about this, so please bear with me.
Please honestly take your time. And
yeah, I found that the hobbies I was interested in, having been homeschooled, were quite different from others around me. I always had a deep-rooted interest in space, K-pop. I know now it's very much popular to be alternative and out there, but at the time it wasn't something society were recognizing with me. I wasn't raised with religion. I just like to make that clear. So I was raised with no religion. So religion was forced upon me when I hit 15, 16. And for a Western woman, which is how I would like to identify, who was raised with no religion, to then be told that I had to follow this religion and the ideals and the social norms associated with it was very difficult. I went to an all-girls school. The girls' school was predominantly Asian women. And I can say that I honestly made some amazing friends there, but I found that when I tried to explain what I was going through, they couldn't relate. And they told me, well, Ruby, why isn't your only goal in life to want to get married and have kids and, go down the societal expectations of me? So that was quite difficult. There was always something stopping me from relating to people around me.
I just want to bring in a comment that has just come in from one of our delegates, Sumbal. You okay? Would you like to
Yeah.
go and grab a glass of water?
No, I'm okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. We'll continue whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
I just want to bring in a comment here from Sumbal Chanara from City Fibre. She says, incredibly brave. I am so sorry you had to go through all this. I'm so proud of you for being here today, and thank you for your generosity and sharing. And I think it's really important that women are able to craft the space to share these experiences. And whilst it's extremely difficult, and I know it's taken a lot of courage for you to join us here today to share that story. We hope that you're able to find the ways and the means to help heal. And you can never put time to that.
Yes.
You cannot put anything to that. And we hope you're able to heal. You kind of openly share your experience of sexism and stigma that you had to endure in the workplace. In your view, what do you think needs to change? And what is your ask of leaders and allies of today? Those people that are listening in, what is that one thing that they can do today and take back to their organization?
I think the main thing that we can do as a collective is to understand that equality is very different from what is needed, which is equity. Having endometriosis and being a woman, I may be given the same tools as my peers, but I will never be able to catch them up because I have my own disadvantages, disabilities, etc. And in order for that to take place, for me to be seen as an equal, there needs to be equity. There's more resources that I would need compared to my peers in order to be at the same level. So equality is very different from equity. And I think that's one thing we all have to remember, that I may be given equal tools, but I might need more in order to be the same as my peers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, every woman is different.
Yes.
And we're divided by our culture, our geography, our faith, our religion. And I think one of the things here that we probably want to urge organizations to learn is around the differences between our faiths and cultures and religion, because our wants and needs are going to be very, very different. So no two maybe Muslim hijabi women will want the same thing, right?
Yes.
So how do we get our organizations to understand culture better? And I think cultural intelligence plays a really, really big part in their inclusionary journey. What does belonging look like and feel like to you, particularly in the workplace environment? How would you say you feel you would belong?
Belonging to me personally means being able to be myself, my most authentic self, without feeling like there will be stigma or stereotyping, or that there might be any disadvantages associated with me being the true authentic self that I am. So belonging is about creating a safe space for people to be their most authentic self without fear of being reprimanded for it.
Do you feel you belong today?
I feel like I'm still finding my place. I feel I belong in my workplace. I belong in society. I'm still finding my feet because, like you said, healing is a long process. I'm still trying to find out who I really am. I've been told who I am supposed to be for so long. I don't know who I am, and I'm still working that out.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think I would say a lot of us women are still trying to figure out who we are and what we stand for, and
Yeah.
you know, the roads and the paths that we've all taken. We've all taken extremely difficult roads and paths, haven't we? And but you've taken an extremely difficult path, and for you to show up today and share this story, we're really, really grateful. Um, I've got another comment here from Leah Bryant. Ruby, thank you for being so transparent, brave, and inspirational. Truly brilliant, and appreciate you sharing your story. You are seen and loved. Everyone loves you,
Thank you.
and you know we're all here to learn from you. Um, what would you say to your younger self, knowing now what you know and living your truth?
I think don't fear yourself, don't fear others, don't be scared. I think I lived in fear for so long as to what society would think, what culture would think, what my parents would think, what my peers would think. I think it's important not to live in fear because it's held me back from so many opportunities or meeting so many amazing people or doing events like this.
And how are you now? You have a voice, you have a very powerful voice, a very strong voice. How are you using your platform, your voice? Um, and I actually want to bring in the word privilege. And I know it's a very, very strong word. And I'm just going to bring in a little example about me. I I grew up in an environment where very traditional family, brown girl, had to go by the books, you know, faith, religion, family, society. I never really understood what privilege was until about 18 months ago. Um, I always thought that the world was against me. It was me against the world, right? Um, about 18 months ago, having a conversation with a friend, we had a really deep dive into the word privilege. And I finally understood that I did have privilege. And my privilege was a voice, the color of my skin being brown, and a platform, which is a business that I founded 3 years ago. And so I'm using that as my platform, my voice to help others. Ruby, how are you
Yeah.
using your voice to help other girls, other women, to 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 ensure that no other woman ever has to experience what you did?
So, if I'm honest, I don't think I'm using my voice enough. I think I've used my voice to save my sisters. And because of me standing up, I have saved them from the life that I had. So I'm grateful for that. I've been very lucky to use my voice to help other, I do mentoring in my free time. So to help other girls who have maybe been in similar situations as myself or other apprentices, which is the area I work in now, and help them through their circumstances. But I do not use my voice enough. And like we were saying before, the thing that was holding me back was fear. I was scared of being judged because of what I had gone through. I was scared of being judged by society or the community that I felt so banned from. So I'm not using it enough, if I'm honest with you. And that is
And
something that I would like to
perhaps
change.
step by step, day by day, you will find hopefully that strength, the courage, the voice to enable change for other women.
And that is my dream. That is my dream. I want to
Um,
make sure that no woman feels even 1% of what I had to go through. And I'm sure you can relate. I did not realize how many women were going through similar situations to myself. It's very easy to think that we are the only one, but there's so many people out there that could relate to us.
yeah, absolutely. And often they are women that we're just surrounded by, but we just do not know. And I think one of the things that I would say to those that are listening in today is, you know, if you do spot someone who is not being themselves, pluck up the courage to just go and ask them, are you okay? Can I help? And if I cannot help, can I get help for you? And
Yes.
that's great allyship in action. You know, and so, I mean, what would you advise people in terms of, you know, how can people, you know, how do we spot those signs if women are experiencing some in some kind of difficulty?
So going from myself, and I know we were speaking about this earlier, I have learned how to mask things really well. I have learned how to mask things extremely well and hide what I'm feeling inside. Another stigma is that we don't talk about mental health in our cultures. So mental health doesn't really exist, or that support is frowned upon. So we tend to just get up, put a smile on our face and just get on with it. I think for me, the telltale signs are definitely if someone is acting out of character, if someone is maybe sharing a bit more about their personal life, hoping that you notice the little remarks that they're making and you make that in. As something as simple as asking someone, how are you today, could change everything. If someone was asking me that daily, I don't think I would have self-harmed. I would have felt like, oh, this person is genuinely interested in seeing how I feel.
And there is that the difference between how are you, no, actually, how are you really, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
difference between one and the other, and the you know the genuine of the question. If you were to give some advice to everyone listening today, what's the one piece of advice that you'd like to give? You know, whether it's to organisations or whether it's to individuals, what one thing would you have to say to them?
So this is one I'm still learning myself. And I've only started using it last year. Don't be scared or frightened to ask for help. I thought this journey was mine and mine alone. I didn't think that there would be anyone out there who would want to support me or care for me or advise me. I haven't had the guardianships that other peers have had. I haven't had parents to guide me. I haven't had a peer group to guide me. I've been in survival mode a very long time because I've never known how to ask for help. I started asking for help last year, started really small, really small. It started as simple as, could you help me with my shopping? Build it up. And I realized how many people are in my group that actually care, that do love me, that do care, that do want to help, and that would jump at the opportunity to give me back what I've been giving to them.
Yeah, and I think that piece around giving is just so important. I've just got a note here from Michelle Cruz. She says, "Thank you, Ruby. So brave to share your story. In using your voice, don't forget to keep giving back to yourself. Looking after yourself, centering yourself is just so important. It is wonderful that you can use your voice, and it is such a powerful voice. Just remember to keep replenishing yourself." I feel we've only just scratched the surface. We're running out of time now. It's just been wonderful, Ruby, to be on that journey together with you, because this is the first time, and I hope we can do more together, because I would love to personally support you and your mission to ensure that no woman or girl ever has to experience what you did. So please, please count me in. Knock on my door when you're ready. Please count me in. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. I am so privileged and honoured to be part of your story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to yourself and the team and the lovely audience we've had too.
Thank you so much, Ruby, and we shall catch up very soon.